We are reading book 4, Sutra 7 this morning. And it says, the actions of the yogi are neither white, good, nor black, bad, but the actions of others are of 3 kinds, good, bad, and mixed. The esoteric meaning of white and black is good and bad, or pure and impure. But in the yogi's case, there is no pure or impure karma. As a yogi, your actions are performed with such equanimity that you don't bring them into either category. You are above good and bad. Others may categorize your actions, but to you, they are just something that has to be done, and they are happening. It is like the case of any instrument, a knife, for example. A knife just cuts. If the knife cuts a fruit, you may say it's good, and if it cuts a throat, it is bad. But to the knife, a cut is a cut. It doesn't matter where it cuts or what it cuts. The one who wields the knife might face the good and bad reactions. Like that, the yogi is not an agent for his or her actions. The yogi is above the dualities. For a normal person, however, actions are of 3 kinds, good, bad, and a mixture of the 2. Part of any act may be good, part bad. For example, you may do something beautiful, but your motive may be a little selfish. The act is good, but the motive is bad. It's good for others, but not for you. So you can see the difference between a yogi's karma and the karma of others. Others say, oh, this is good, I did it perfectly, or, oh, I goofed, or this is just so-so. But with a yogi, you can't characterize it that way. That's interesting. I'll switch and look and see what Carrera says. Carrera's commentary is, yogis who have eliminated ignorance do not create any karma, good or bad. They are liberated beings. Their actions no longer serve to further their evolution, since their efforts have already led them to the highest spiritual state. Those in whom ignorance continues to perform its illusory dance must face the consequences of the karma that ego-centered actions have created, pleasurable, painful, or mixed. When Patanjali is talking about the yogi, he's talking about a yogi who has eliminated ignorance. Not me, not that yogi. And that's what we're aiming for, I guess. That's what we're working towards. That's interesting. Does anybody have anything they want to comment on that, or shall I read?
4-5 or 4-6?
That was 4-7.
Oh.
I'm glad it was clarified. The definition of a yogi,
yeah,
then, or at least one characteristic of a yogi who has achieved is that. Because right. I was putting myself right in the other category right away, you know.
Right,
like,
other people, me too.
Really, I'm one of the others.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking too. But I see Carrera kind of explains that. So
Gyanesvara says he phrases the Sanskrit translation as advanced yogis.
Right.
If advanced yogi has mastered all levels of the inner process, then he or she is completely resting in awareness of the true nature of self and is not identified with the other thought patterns.
Right.
Which is so funny because sometimes when I'm in class and I hear somebody say like, well, I guess like Amanda, you'll say advanced practitioner, but sometimes I'll think about like somebody who's an advanced in yoga, but sometimes they're so beginner. Like they're advanced in the physical practice of yoga,
Yeah.
And really, they're not even, they may not already be advanced. It's just something their body can do. Like there are some poses my body can just do.
Right.
Like the first time I tried it. And there are some poses my body will never do. But this is the work that gets me. I also think it's so funny with the word karma. Like I think about that game Telephone. Like I remember when I first started studying yoga philosophy and this idea of karma came up, and I don't have any background in like Hindu or Buddha or whatever they talk about karma. So like, you know, karma to me was taught what goes around comes around. And then it was like, no, that's not what it means. No, no, no. But it's just like, how did it get to that point? Like somebody was just like, let me just simplify it in my own way. And this is what I teach people.
Right.
There's a lot of surface misunderstanding with it because everything gets watered down, right?
Well, that's what I mean. It's just like, just another thing I have to unlearn and then learn my own way.
Yeah, I think this is a good sutra because it kind of speaks, like we had that conversation the other day, Pam, right? Like one of the big problems in the yoga world is that there's not a lineage that people are following. They're just kind of making it up as they go. And then there's no description of what the yogi should be and shouldn't be. I've been kind of like sitting with that. Like if you look in the text, there's a very distinct description of how the teacher of yoga should act. And like nobody in the West knows that. So like it's very specifically like control your sexual urges, control your mouth, control your senses. And if somebody can't do those things, they're not qualified to be a teacher of yoga. And I think it's like there are all these people teaching that shouldn't be teaching because they're not advanced yogis, you know what I mean? Like and it's not to like put people in a place where like you're not good enough to teach yoga. It's like if you're putting yourself on this pedestal of like you're teaching these very important things and then these people come to you who trust you and then you're not controlling yourself and then you end up harming them because you haven't learned to control yourself, then it's like it's destroying the entire relationship of the teacher student with the yoga practice. Like that's something me and Pam sort of been like dealing with on the back end of things. There's a couple of really famous male yoga instructors who like it just came out recently that they're being out of control and they're hurting people, and it's like nobody told you the way you're supposed to be as a teacher because like they'll defend themselves. Like it's wild. But wild.
I feel I totally agree, but I also feel like like we talk about these superpowers and they take advantage of them, and then like for someone like me who was getting the red flags, I just wasn't picking up on exactly what it was until the news broke. But these people that are doing all this self-work and self-realization, and then they find these teachers, whether they're male or female, whoever these teachers are, and then just like this, like if I'm a teacher and I show up to the class and I'm like, guys, today karma is what goes around comes around, and then I walk out as a student and this is what I'm carrying with me all day, but then I learn how to manipulate the teachings, and that's what I think it's ignorance, right? Because like they're just being ignorant to what the real lineage teaching. They're greedy. They want to have this control and power over people. Yeah. And these are the people that are taking these leadership roles. Teachers are leadership roles. So like instead, you come to the front of the classroom and you allow the student, you give it like how Amanda teaches, like she gives you a story and then she lets you say, okay, well, how can I define karma? Like she could give you a yoga philosophy story on karma, and then she'll let you sit there and be like, how does that show up in my own life? Instead of being like, okay, this is the story, this is the definition, downward facing dog, which is how some other teachers make it.
My teachers always made sure to tell us when they would be unqualified. They said, I'm going to tell you what to look out for. If I start acting this way, you need to stop following me as a teacher.
Really?
Yeah. And I always felt like, there it is. That was the difference between the people that I really like stuck with and gravitated towards, and the people who like I was like, something's not right here, you know. Like there has to be that accountability, and there has to be the empowerment of the student, like what you're saying, Pam. Like if you're not empowering your students to be self-guided, because that's the problem, right? Like these people are like, I need my students to like give me things, give me sex, give me money, give me this, give me that. And if I don't create a codependent relationship and put them in a place where they need me, then they're going to go away. But like, as I teach you guys in teacher training, like you're training your students to leave you one day.
Yeah.
We're trying to get people independent of any external material thing. And like, if teachers aren't doing that, they're missing the whole point of the yoga philosophy. And that's what he's saying. And like, Pam, that's such a, like, you're really making me think about like how I'm phrasing things in a class, like for the advanced yogis, for the advanced practitioner, maybe I shouldn't be saying that, you know, it's not necessary. I'm not teaching them the right thing. So for the advanced asana practitioner, for my advanced yogis, you can sit in meditation in the corner of the room and not do any asana. You know what I mean?
Well, it's always something I thought about, because like there are a few times when I was like a beginner teacher and I would sub for Callie, and the self-talk would come like, you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can teach this class because I take this class, and I like knew it, like once I got out of my head, I could do it and I could prepare, and you can prepare for anything and do it. And as long as I showed up prepared, I knew I could do it. And so I remember even when I was taking my own master, the studio was taking master, it was called master. And I remember asking the teacher, do you think I could do it? And she was like, yes, of course you can do it. Just come, do what you can. But I think about these ideas of like, what is an advanced class? And some of the most advanced people I practice with are not. I'm like, oh my God, you have so much work that you still need to do, that you get so annoyed by this thing happening. You shouldn't even be paying attention to that thing happening. You know, just pay attention to your own mat. But I've watched myself grow. Like if I didn't have the exact same spot every time, if someone if someone made a noise during Savasana, if the perfect song, you know, like if whatever the things were. And now it's just like, that's why I go to yoga, to practice those distractions, so that when I come out of here, I can deal with the frustration. Because if we show, and this is what I teach the students, like if I show up and I practice in this perfect environment, how the heck am I supposed to survive when I go get frustrated? Like, if you can't deal with somebody walking out of the room to go to the bathroom, like, come on already. But I have to be patient too. Like that's where my patience. But I tell the students, like, you can show up to a Maha flow at Rev in a class I'm teaching. I'm not going to speak for other teachers, and come and do child's pose the whole time, or sit in a restorative shape, and you will be the most advanced person in the class if that's what you need in that moment. Because you're listening to yourself. And I'm like, it's not about getting to do all the poses. That's what I think, and that's what I love. That's what I love learning at Rev. Like that, this is acceptable versus showing up. And I'm not bashing other studios. Just like, I think that like you're saying, Amanda, like the teachings aren't there. It's just like, you can teach downward facing dog. Now you're a 200-hour yoga teacher, you know? So.
And now you can train other 200-hour yoga teachers, which has been like the mind-boggling thing. Like when I first started teaching, the regulatory body just became a thing. So that was a long time ago now, but it was like strange because my teachers had been grandfathered in where their teachers taught them for a long time. I watched the practice and watched their behavior. And then when they felt that the student was ready to teach, to be in that leadership role, they'd say, okay, now you teach this class. And then all of a sudden there's like this body that comes about and they're like, oh, well, if you pay us, you can have this certificate. And then all of a sudden it was like one person had the certificate and they're like, well, now I'm going to give other people certificate. And then it just kept getting watered down because it was like whoever made up whatever they wanted could suddenly certify yoga teachers. And here we are in America now.
Which is interesting.
I have to.
Yeah, go ahead, Sue.
I think this perversion of the practice and of the philosophy is something that's seen in other fields as well, and probably for the same reason. So you guys know my husband is a psychotherapist and psychoanalyst. It is pervasive in psychotherapy, absolutely pervasive. And it's not like there's one particular way to do psychotherapy or psychoanalysis, because there's not, because it's been around for like 130 years. So a lot is, well, not that long, but a lot is developed and evolved in a very good way. But it is that people think that they can be psychotherapists because they have their master's in social work, and they can't. You know, it's sort of like they got that piece of paper, and you know, you're dealing in such an important area, just like yoga. It is so important, and you can have such an impact on people, both negative and positive, that not to take it seriously and not to want, it's like not knowing, you know, one limb of yoga, you don't know seven, you know, that it is, and it's sad because it does take concentration, it does take work, and it takes ongoing work. My husband's been in the field now for close to 40 years. He still reads new articles. He still, when he teaches, he rereads everything. He rethinks it. And then he might teach it somewhat differently, et cetera, et cetera. And so I hear what you're saying, Amanda, because that's, and it's very frustrating because there's not a whole lot you can do about it, you know, except for building the core of people who really are paying attention to the critical aspects and who really are introspective and understand what they're bringing and what maybe they shouldn't bring, you know, to whatever the practice is.
That's a tough thing with psychotherapy. I've heard of therapists who like sleep with their clients, and
it's the same thing as
they're not doing any self-work. It's terrible.
Yes, it's, and there are, and like you said, there are a ton of excuses and rationales, and you can turn it around so it's not an excuse, but it's a rationale about why you should be doing something, and it's insane. And when I think of the years of training that my husband went through before he became a teacher, he had 2 master's degrees, and he went through about 6 years of training before he started teaching classes, and more, and he had to do 2 years of special training before he could supervise, which is like a yoga teacher teaching somebody to be a yoga teacher, before he could supervise. And I mean, in the end, it's resulted in somebody who is thoroughly grounded, and he's really very good, and he's in high demand by new psychotherapists. They really like him as a supervisor. I think they feel like he learns a lot. But it's something, it's endemic. So, and I have to, there are a couple of other yoga studios that take this stuff seriously. I used to go for a little while, for a couple of classes, to Polarity in Malvern.
Actually, yeah, I started at Polarity when I was a teenager. Yeah, she told
When you
me
were a teen.
right. Heather did it right. I'm sad that they, you know, what happened.
Well, they didn't, you know, that merger that occurred merged.
I know, yeah.
But I don't know where
they
they're
closed
now.
from that. Is she
Pardon
open
me?
again? I thought they closed from that whole situation.
Well, there's another yoga teacher named Tina Lear, who was still teaching classes.
Okay.
Then Tina and I are writing partners, and so I know that she was still teaching classes until fairly recently through them.
She's great. Okay, good. So she took over?
No, she was a teacher there, so I know that she was teaching remote classes through Polarity.
Okay, good.
I think, or maybe I just misunderstood it. So pay no attention to me. I don't know. You have to contact Heather.
Well, they're very like into, like, Polarity is just like Ayurveda, with understanding like the energy body and like the real philosophy behind it. They're great. They're really great.
They did a lot of therapy, like yoga.
Yeah,
Yes.
very much about like healing, gentle.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. We need more of that in the yoga world.
Yes, I think so.
They produce some good Polarity people too.
I asked my friend, and I said, because she's a therapist at one of the local hospitals, and she was over one night, and we were having a glass of wine, and we always go down the philosophy hole, and I'm like, would you ever sleep, because she's not married, she's in a relationship and she's not married. I said, would you be allowed to sleep with one of your patients? And the answer came out so fast, no. Like, not, I'd have to go check. Like, no, like therapists are not allowed to sleep with their patients. And I said, like, what? Like, yogi practitioners, some of us, when we show up, are so vulnerable. Because sometimes when you when you finally make it into the yoga studio, sometimes there's a reason behind it. Whatever, and you may not even know what it is. And then you start doing all this self-work, and we have to like think about, we're not just clients and customers, we're like a patient to the teacher. And that's, I don't know if you all watched the Brene Brown link that Amanda posted. I texted it to you yesterday, Sue. It was such an eye-opener.
I still have to watch it.
For the letter B, the boundaries. And I think that first letter, my God, I can't stop thinking about it. The boundaries that you cross with people, that you know, not just in the yoga studio, but in your life. Like, no, I have my real sister is texting me. I mean, she's definitely has mental, like, bipolar disorder. She's so lonely. She has no friends because she's very mean. And she's been texting me, like, she told me she didn't want to talk to me anymore a few weeks ago. So fine, I'm gonna respect that. I've never blocked her. It's just fine. Go, you're in your swing, like she swings. And fine, go. But now she's lonely and bored again. So she lashes out at me. Why am I doing this to her? Why am I blocking her? If I don't respond to her right now, she's cutting me off forever. So don't respond to her, because I'm not gonna encourage this behavior. I've gotten 10 text messages since Saturday and a voicemail threatening to never speak to me again, but she keeps texting me because she's looking for a response from me, and this is not the appropriate way. Like, I do not allow people to talk to me this way.
Yeah.
Whether you're my sister or not, especially if you're my sister. So it's just, I have to get to a place where I can have a conversation with her, because I'm gonna like rage at her when I hear her voice. So I need to like calm myself down. But like, we have to set those boundaries for ourselves in all of our relationships. And that's something I missed in yoga, because I just trusted everyone immediately. And not just at Rev, I'm talking about in my yoga community. Like, it seemed like everyone I have run into just fit. I'm like, okay, this all makes sense. But now someone has broken that boundary, and now I'm starting to question. And this person wasn't the first one. There's been others recently. So it was just like one is such more of an eye opener that you have to start being like, whoa, what? And it could even be a student that shows up to my class. I haven't had this, but I mean, I've had a student show up that broke some boundaries, but it didn't affect me. It affected other students in the class. And then you have to deal with that. So I do think that, but I think we need to bring that to people's attention more, instead of letting them experience it as a lesson, in the sense, not in a negative way, like open their eyes to it.
Yeah.
Do you mean when you say bring to people's attention, do you mean like, I am a yoga student and I should be aware of how the teacher's teachings are affecting me, and if it's crossing a boundary or somehow inappropriate or unhelpful, I should somehow be aware of that? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that would be one example as a boundary, but I just mean in life, like just.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking, yeah.
Like
Yoga world too, Sue. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely the yoga world. I definitely think there needs to be a shift, like, and not just a teacher. It could be another student, like, or it could be a front desk worker, owner, or manager, whoever. Like, you should not ever feel uncomfortable here. And whatever that looks like for that studio, I don't know. I don't know what the wording is, but I think more so for teachers, like, it's something that we need to have more discussion on. I don't know. I don't know what should a teacher never date a student? No, I don't know what those rules are. If it's an appropriate.
That's the rule.
What?
Yes, that's the rule.
Yeah, that if it ain't, it should be.
You're not
There's
allowed to
too
sleep
much going
with
on.
students. You shouldn't sleep with your students. It's terrible. You know, so one of the swamis that me and a bunch of my friends follow around, he said once, if it's the person you're meant to marry, then marry them.
Yeah.
He's like, but that's the only time.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's not allowed. Like, it's not allowed.
To be personally, yes, I do agree. I don't want it to be misconstrued. I do agree that teachers should not date students. I worked at Bear Stearns and we had a nepotism rule, and once you started dating, one of you had to leave. So if the teacher decided to date the student either needs to leave the studio or the teacher needs to leave, you know, go on a teaching break, whatever that looks like. Yeah, that's something I would feel strongly about, but that's just my personal opinion. That's not something I have any basis on.
That's what they teach in the lineage. No, you're not allowed. I was always so strict. I can't even tell you how many like love letters and declarations I've gotten over the years from students. And I'm like, I do not date my students. I do not date my students. So my husband was my rock climbing. I was talking to him about this in the car the other day. He was my rock climbing teacher. And then he started taking my classes and we were like sort of, I would say like peers. And I was like gonna marry him, you know? So I married him, but like I really had a hard time in the beginning. Like we stayed friends for a long time because I was like, he's taking my yoga classes. I don't know if I feel okay about dating him because I really like him. I don't know if it's right. But then like, you know, I spoke to my people who guided me, and they're like, no, he's your teacher first. Like you guys are both teachers to each other. So that's okay. So then there we are. Now we're married with kids. But I didn't meet him in the yoga studio. He was like, I didn't meet him but like, yeah, there were a lot of people. It was like not, and they would get upset with me and I'd be like, no, it's not okay. You don't understand the power dynamic. It's not okay. Cause like you come, like what you're saying, Pam, like you come and people are so desperate to trust someone because they've had their trust broken for so long. And it's like, this is what yoga is supposed to represent. Yoga community sangha, it's supposed to represent a safe space. So you're like desperate. You're just desperate to trust someone. So you're like, okay, now I can finally trust someone. And like, I guess we're miseducating our students by allowing them that kind of, like early on, I've had swamis tell me that like, you don't initiate with a guru until you've watched them a long time. And that was like a big lesson in trust for me because like, I'd be like, I'm in love with you. You know, like I'd meet this guy and oh my God, one of the guys in college, we knew each other for 4 days. And we were both like, we are in love with each other. We love each other so much. Like I didn't know his character. I didn't know like his past. I didn't know how he acted in different situations and he was out of his mind, you know, like, and I gave my heart up for that. So it's the same with when you take on a teacher in like this lineage, you're supposed to make sure that this person is moral and they're following and they're like an advanced yogi. Like that's really important before you like accept them into your heart because you're so vulnerable. And when you accept someone into your heart, the problem is like you accept them wholly and then like they can do all kinds of things and it's like, well, I love that. And then you get hurt and it's like a whole incongruous.
And it's only because they've studied all of this and know how to manipulate it. And that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Bad karma yoga.
Bogies, they're called bogies. They're not yogis, they're bogies. There are stories in the Vedas of this. I read some story. It was someone's autobiography and they were saying there was this guru and he and like all these students would initiate with him and he was like so evil and he would like destroy them and like psychically haunt them and when I read that I was like, oh my God, you got to be careful because just because somebody says they're something it doesn't mean that they are.
Charismatic people are really dangerous people unless they are really honest with themselves and have done whatever work it takes and whatever framework it takes to know what they're about, because they have one hell of a powerful tool.
That's it too. The charismatic people. Those that are wanting.
Yeah, and we have
Big followings, the charismatic people, right, Pam? For a long time, we're like, why are these psychotic yoga teachers getting these, like, so many students? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why aren't people following, the like kind, compassionate ones? There it is. It's the charisma.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like a pheromone that you can't resist.
And sometimes I think that then blocks your, or you allow that to I allow that to, I shouldn't say you, I might allow that to block my intuition. So
Yes.
because the person is charismatic, you get carried along with that, and it blocks that, you let it block that gut feeling that you might have.
Right. I agree. I worked for somebody like that for years, and I ended up staying because of the work we were doing was good work, et cetera, et cetera. But I would watch her when she met new people, and I would watch her when she spoke. And in public speaking, she was very powerful, almost hypnotic. And those of us who knew her would stand backstage and roll our eyes and think, Jesus, there goes another batch, She didn't do anything evil. She was just very narcissistic. So it didn't matter whether the thing was good or bad as long as it fed her, which meant that bad things could happen. But it's very powerful, and and you're right. It blocks intuition, because I think what it does, and certainly what it does for me, is it just sweeps you up and it holds you, and you think everything is solved, and you're back to duality, where this is a warm, comfortable, safe space, and look at all of the good things that are going to happen. If I go out there, I'm back to where I was before. And so you're looking for the easy answer, and you're looking for, if I follow this person, if I do this, this is going to work. And of course it doesn't, because life is real, and it's never just black and white. It's always shades of gray. So, oh well.
That's very insightful.
But it's horrible when people are in a teaching position or a position of power and know that what they're doing is wrong, but use it anyways, and use that innate power plus the whatever they've picked up,
Right.
in whatever field they happen to be in.
It's what our society embellishes and uplifts. Like, I was talking to my husband yesterday, and so a lot of people, I don't want to divulge too much information, but in certain industries, there's like this almost like narcissistic, machismo, egoistic quality that most of the people who are very wealthy have, and it's almost like if they have to participate in that in order to get to a certain place, because it's like, in our society, like, you seem strong, like, look at our president, right? He seems so right? There's so many people are like, oh, when they voted for him, well, he's gonna fix everything, right? It's the charisma, like, he's gonna fix everything, he's strong, he's powerful, like, it's okay if he is a sexist, and like, it's fine because he's gonna fix everything because he's strong, like, he's just like that, it's just locker room talk, like, he's strong, right? And it's like, well, it's something wrong with our society. Like, I was reading in Japan that I wonder what you ladies think with your education background, like, for the first couple of grades, they don't do any tests, they don't do any homework, every single lesson is about developing their character and their moral compass. And then they start teaching them. And like, if you look at the culture, even just like, I remember like, just in Asian cultures overall, like, when I was in the airport at Taipei, it was like, people who didn't feel well were wearing masks. This was a long time ago. It was very quiet. Everybody was very respectful to one another. And you kind of like see that in the culture. Like, people aren't spitting on the ground or cursing at you in the street, or, right? It's like very respectful. And I feel like Americans are not like that. It's like a rare group, or maybe it's just living in New York, I don't know. I've been to California. It seems like everybody's like that, like very aggressive and disrespectful as well. Maybe it's not like that in the middle of the country. I don't know. That's what's like, that's like what people want. They want to be like rich and powerful and be able to like crap all over everybody else. I feel like that was the allure of him, of the president. It was like, he says whatever he wants. He doesn't think about what other people feel. I want to be like that. Look at how rich he is. Like, it's probably because he's like that. You know, I want to be like that. And it's,
or if I can do it, I want a leader who can do it. And I want a leader who makes it more possible for me to do it. And that's what they got.
That's what they got. And look at society.
Yeah.
It's like a ball rolling down a hill.
Now. There must be some little bit of optimism in here somewhere.
Yeah, I know. There's like an underlying current. I get it. There's an underlying current that's like making everybody wake up. But it's been a really interesting ride.
Well, I hope so, because otherwise, the longer you stay in a nightmare, the harder it is to crawl out of it. So
it's like the frog in the boiling pot. Have you ever heard that story?
Yeah.
Well, we're meant to be here. That's what yoga philosophy tells us. We're gonna have to keep creating our positive some scores.
We picked it.
Picked it. So we can either do the work or we can get sucked in with the rest of them. And I'm not getting sucked into that disaster. So I will stand by myself over here on my own island and do the work.
That's boundaries. That's boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I had pretty strong boundaries, but I guess I never really thought about it, and one got in, maybe more than one.
Well, but that's like you said, if it was all rosy and quiet, it would be easy to meditate. So
yeah,
that is your.
Well, it was a wake-up call because I had no harm done to me, but now I can learn it. I can use it as a teaching tool to educate others to pay attention to their boundaries, not just in the yoga world, but even in my work. I work with all women, and they have no mouth, and they get so mad when I say something. No, you can't say that to the male leader. Yes, I can. I'm going to go say it. Yes. They can't fire me. I'm not saying anything. What they're saying to me is way worse than what I'm saying to them. And if they do fire me, then that will just open up that can of worms.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, but I have to teach them boundaries. It's not acceptable for these people to talk to us this way. You have to put those boundaries up. And so
in that video where she talks about the trust, like what I liked was it combines a lot of different things where it's not just you trusting other people, it's you being a trustable person.
Yes.
And part of that is like the way you express your boundaries is in giving people the benefit of the doubt. Like that was a big thing for me, because sometimes I'll be like, because I just never had boundaries. I never had good boundaries ever. And this has been like the lesson in quarantine of like, how do I, you go to one extreme, like you're at one extreme and you feel like you got to go to the other extreme to figure out, right? And it's almost like she's like, oh, well, you have a boundary, but like give people the benefit of the doubt, sit down with them and say, listen, like, I'm sure you didn't mean to cause me harm. I'm sure that, this, but when you did this, it did make me feel this way. And that's like revolutionary to me.
Yeah.
But like you have to be trustable, and like the way you express that trustability to people is like so beautiful and gentle, and it's like healthy boundaries. There it is. It's just,
I also liked in that video the part where she said you have to follow through on what you say if you want to be trusted. And I think people kind of underestimate that too. You really have to be careful what you say and what you promise. And don't promise things that you're really not going to follow through, because then you've just lost any trust you might have tried to build with a person, in creating a new relationship. I'm always bringing it back to my work with kids, because it's so important to me, and it's so important to me. I don't promise things. I don't do unless I know that I can follow through and I'm going to always be consistent and be, because you've got to be that. Otherwise, children, especially vulnerable children, you know, that maybe don't have people they trust in the rest of their life.
Mhm.
So if you're the only person that's there for them, to be that anchor for them, you have to really make sure that you do what you say you're going to do, and you're there every single time doing that same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Satya.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to do that, and then I started, and then, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, when I started yoga, the philosophy is like, oh, okay, I have to practice Satya. And that took me months and months and months to get, because it would be like you tell these stories that are embellished is one thing, and you have to like catch yourself 1,000 times. And then it like gets so subtle where like you're saying, oh yeah, I'll see you, you know, we'll like make plans, we'll get together. And you're lying. So you can't do that anymore.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
You mean it. Right.
You have to mean it. You have to like be, so I would just stop like committing to things that I wasn't 100% positive that I would be able to do, because it would mean that I was a liar. And that it was like it's like very different than what our culture, it's very different than what our culture teaches. Even my mother the other day, she's like, just tell her you're going to do this and then don't do it. I'm like, I can't, that's not my spiritual practice. I can't lie to my kid. I'm not going to do that. I tell her I'm going to give her a popsicle later, I'm going to give her a popsicle later, you know?
Yeah.
That's awful. I felt like my mom did that so much, and I did not trust her, you know,
Right.
because she had told me these things, or she would tell me she's going to do something and not do it, or not do something and do it.
And that can happen, that you can really truly mean that you're going to do something, and then circumstances mean that it doesn't happen. But then that can be an explanation, but still you have to be conscious of it. And with young children, I think you have to be extra conscious of it.
I think that's when you have to sit down though, like Amanda was saying, and be like, look, I know I told you I was going to do this, like, but this is, and like, I think people underestimate children, because I was very mature because I was put in that role by my mother. And the fact that she would treat me like an adult, but also a child in different circumstances. I never really knew, like, okay, am I a child now or an adult?
Right.
But thank God I learned how to trust myself. And I think out of that video, like, we really have to learn to trust ourselves. And when people that are with the charisma that block our gut, and then we don't trust, then we forget to trust ourselves, that's when I get most hurt. When I don't listen to myself, and I
Right.
myself. And then I'm like, oh, and it's like an ignorance, like, why was I choosing to ignore the signs? Because I wanted to believe something else. And then I forget to trust myself again, because I didn't listen to myself.
That should be a huge indication of if somebody's trustworthy or not, right?
Yes, of course.
Like, I tell women that, like, for the longest time I was with these dudes, and they're over you like a feeling of like, I don't know. Is that right for me? I don't know. And then like when I met Mark, it was like there wasn't even a feeling of like he's not interested, or like it was like, and I always make this joke, I've never done it, I'm not going to do it, it's gross, it's a gross example, but I always tell women, like, you could take a shit on someone's chest, and if they love you, really love you, like in the way you're supposed to be loved, it's not even going to faze them. They're still going to be like emotionally, like they're not going anywhere. Like you can't say the wrong thing, you can't do the wrong thing when somebody's like trustworthy like that, right? Like they'll come with you and be like, oh, this thing made me feel this way, can you not do that again? Yeah. It's like, I think those are the relationships we should be striving for, not just like with our teachers or our bosses, but yeah, and our students, we should like be trustworthy for our students, and we should, yeah, it's a big thing.
You know, there's a scene in Kiss Me Kate, which is based on The Taming of the Shrew, and where, and I don't remember exactly how it goes, but the guy asks the woman basically, there's something about kissing his foot if she really loves him. Now he's not, this is the end, and this is true love, so this is not the games they were playing initially, et cetera, et cetera. And my feminist friends used to say that's disgusting, et cetera, et cetera. And I would say, no, it's not. If my husband asked me to do that, I would wonder what the F is going on. But I would say, honey, if you really want me to do it, stick out the foot, just remove the smelly sock, you know, and I would do it. And he would do the same for me. He would do anything I asked him to do. Yeah. Although, again, you wonder what is going on if it's a bizarre request. But I hear you, Amanda. I mean,
that sounds like trust, you know, like
exactly.
you trust that whatever he's asking you, you can trust that he's not trying to hurt you.
Yeah, and you're not trying to figure out, well, why is he asking me this? What is going to happen to me 2 weeks down the road if I do this now, you know? And it's, if you start feeling like that, then, you know, back away slowly because you're in the wrong relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that, I think, because their relationships were so unpredictable when they were younger, right? Like that's,
yeah.
So then that feels normal. That's been like, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's good that I like how that would you say in Japan school teaches it to start.
Yeah.
And
And
because how are you supposed to learn the education when you don't have the moral background?
And we are doing the opposite. We're trying to teach all the academics before the kids have even been able to explore and figure things out for themselves and do what they need to do as children.
Aren't they supposed to know 5 languages before they can even speak?
What's that?
What are you talking
Aren't
about?
they supposed to know 5 languages before they can even speak? Like,
I don't know.
I'm joking.
Sarcastic.
Okay.
Oh, I
was gonna say, did I miss something?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. I feel like.
But they don't know how to say please and thank you. I mean, my nephew's the nicest kid, but he's like, open this. I'm like, go back over there and try again.
Yeah. Yes.
Please.
Yes, and how do they do that with each other, and how do they, all of that is what's important, and the reason that we're seeing so many awful behavioral issues with 6-year-olds and 6-year-olds getting diagnosed with mental illness is because it was partly because we're pushing them to extreme, and how can a 6-year-old display that this is not working for me, but through behavior.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're doing it to them because it's happening more and more and more. In the 15 years that I have been in the classroom with young children, it's more and more and more children are coming in with severe behavioral issues. We're doing it to them, and we have to stop.
It's the culture too. It's like the mothers don't have enough support. They can't stay home with their kids and raise them. So you have these strangers raising the kids and they don't care as much. You have then you're sending them to school and the teachers are raising the kids, but the teachers can't even raise the kids the way they would raise their own kids because they have this curriculum they have to follow. It's like insane. Like I feel so fortunate that kind of at this time she was about to go to school, and then we got locked down, and I'm just seeing like how critical. Like the other day, she goes to my father, I feel nervous when you do that.
Aww.
And he's like, what 2-year-old can identify their feelings like that? I'm like, because, we work on her being able to identify your feelings. I feel like that's a healthy thing so that she knows when you're nervous, you do X, Y, Z, like she was doing alternate nostril breathing with you yesterday on the, it's like, but I get to be home with her and be with her. And like, that's really pivotal. And, a mother loves you so much,
Amanda, that's something you should bring to Rev, like getting these toddlers and mommies. I know they have mommy or parent and me, whatever.
They just don't have time. They don't.
No,
have
I know.
Time. They got to clean the house. They got to cook the food. They got to work full time. It's like insane. In other countries, like in France, like you get free childcare. You take them to creche, and like and it's all about developing their, moral compass. It's like all about play, and the mothers like have support in that way. They have healthcare. It's like it's just America's so stuff. I hope something changes. It makes me so sad for all the babies. I don't know, maybe I'll make like a video at home for at-home mommies it's just not going to fix the systemic problems that
No.
parents are facing.
They picked this, so
I know.
I just have to tell myself they picked it, and not in an ignorant way, but maybe they'll shift. Maybe all this is shifting. Maybe all this. I just have to believe that
If
something.
not this lifetime, you know, we got thousands of them to.
I do think we're hitting rock bottom. I don't think we're there yet, but we're close, and we can only go up from down.
That's true.
But there's been if you look for it, there's been a lot of good things have happened within the, you know, the lotus grows out of the mud. There's been a lot of good things that have happened in the last few months. That
awareness is changing for sure.
Yeah. And the slowing down that has been forced upon people has been a good thing. And I know a lot of people are just going to, you know, zoom right out and want to get back to where they were. But there's a lot of other people who have recognized the slowing down was beneficial and may strive to maintain some of what they've gained during this time. Maybe.
The systems are imploding, which seems awful, but maybe it's good because we could build a new system.
Exactly, because then, yeah, as long as I was on a call yesterday with my teacher friend and myself. We were watching a webinar from the people it's a group called Defending the Early Years, and they do amazing work. And I should probably, you know, get more involved with the work that they're doing. But it was a panel of 6 people talking about you know, how do we move back in? How do we do this with young children as we go back, either remote or in person, and all this? And how do we do this? And the things that these people were saying, my friend was texting me as we were watching it, because, you know, that's the way we can communicate. And she was saying, I don't know whether this is making me want to cry or be happy. You know, it's just like, I said, I think I'm just going to take it that I'm so happy that there's these 6 people here, and they're powerful people. They're people who are well recognized and in their fields, and they're saying what we believe in. They're to us, they're preaching to the choir. They're saying what we believe in. So there we've got at least 6 more people and important people saying what we believe in. And so that's got to be a good thing. So we came out of it at the end that we were texting each other, and I said, we have to speak up. We can't just go blindly along with what everybody's telling us we have to do. We know that what the school district personally is asking us to do right now, what they're saying is going to happen in September, is wrong for 5-year-olds. And so we need to speak up. And I don't know what that's going to do for us. I don't know how it's going to change, but we need to speak up. Can't just sit back and let things happen. So it will start today. I actually started last night. I texted my assistant principal, not the principal, because I don't think I can go there. But I texted the assistant, and she said, you know, we'll call tomorrow. We'll speak today. Okay. So we'll see.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll try to, you know, I'm not going to get all heated.
And be trustworthy.
Yes. Yes. Because we need to really, I know there's a lot of people involved, and I know a lot of people have to be considered, and there's all the rules that they have. There's 144 pages of this stuff from Cuomo that they have to look through and follow. I get all of that, but we have to, bottom line, be doing what's right for the children. And sitting 5-year-olds 6 feet apart with a mask on for 6.5 hours is not what's right for the children.
Go outside. Go outside.
That's something we need to look at. So we need to think out the box. How can we use outside spaces? And if we don't have enough space in the school, how can we use the beach? What else can we use? We need to look at that, and we need to look at what would be good. It would be smaller groups of children. So they would need to have more teachers, or they'd need to allow teaching assistants to do some of the work that teachers do, or something. I don't know. But smaller groups, without the social distancing and the masks,
Bubbles.
And then we could probably do what needs to be done. But there's got to be ways around it. But we can't do 20 children in a room all sitting at a desk. How do you, I mean, can't. 5-year-olds can't do that. And they're all going to be coming back, or many of them are going to be coming back with heightened, I don't know if I want to use the word anxiety, but heightened nervous system. Their nervous systems are going to be in a different state. And so their ability to self-regulate is going to be less than normal. So we have to also address that. You know, kids are going to need touch. They're going to need to be able to be hugged by the teacher. They needed it before, they're going to need it even more now. They're going to need to be able to touch each other. They're going to need to, children need this. And how do they self-regulate? They do it through play. So we have to do something.
I think you're on the path. I think you'll figure something out.
I hope so. I mean, somebody was saying to me that they just want you to be a babysitter. And I said, I don't mind being a babysitter for the next 6 months. Instead, I don't have a problem being a babysitter. I just want to be a good babysitter. and sitting 20 children in the classroom next to a desk for 6.5 hours, that's not being a good babysitter. So if I can try and get my head around ways to be a good babysitter, I'll do that. That's fine. That's fine.
I love the idea of using teaching assistants more, because especially those who have been around for a couple of years have tremendous skills. They love the kids.
Yes.
And it is amazing what you can do when you split up that group and use smaller groups.
Yes.
And it works in this kind of setting, or it should work.
Right. And I think
group outside, that's going to make the kids learn so much better than they were before, no?
I mean, good teaching in early childhood is all about play, and it's all about movement, and it's about using centers and using small groups and circle time and read aloud, all the kids close to you and reading to them. You can't do a read aloud with them all spread out 6 feet apart. How do you connect? You can't do it. So, but I know health reasons we have to change things. I get it, but there's going to be compromise. But we can't take away everything that's good practice, because that would be detrimental to the development of the children.
Hear, hear. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if we're going to allow professional sports to start, we have to allow something for the children.
Right?
This is more
right. And they opened casinos, and they opened it like things that are important, but they're going to sit children 6 feet apart and make them wear a mask. I mean, it's not even going to be possible. 5-year-olds are
not allowed to go to yoga class inside a building either.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
On that note, though, it's 8:38.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm supposed to be in charge.
That's okay. I just noticed the time. I was like, oops, we're going a little over.
We're going a little over. All right, let's find our plates and sit. Get me on my high horse.
Thank you for the conversation, ladies.
Yes, thank you. I might have to check out a little early because I have a 9 o'clock yoga class. So
enjoy your day, Sue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to put it on end video, stop video. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.
Okay. All right, let's find our comfortable seat. And we'll take a deep inhale and a cleansing exhale. And do that again, inhaling fully and exhale. And we'll do alternate nostril breathing to center before we move into our meditation practice for this morning. We'll do 3 rounds together and then continue at our own pace for as long as you need to feel centered before you move into your practice. And I will set the timer for 20 minutes and bring us together at the end. So bringing the right hand with the right thumb closing off the right nostril and the ring finger ready to close the right nostril, the left nostril. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close both. Exhale left. That's one full round. Inhale left. Close both. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close both. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close both. Exhale left. Inhale right. Close both. Exhale left. Continue at your own pace. Maybe adding a pause at the top of the inhale or at the bottom of the exhale if that's comfortable. And then move into your meditation, letting that last exhale come out of the left nostril. Gently bringing your awareness back to your space. Bringing your hands to your heart. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Hi, Isabella.
Can you say namaste?
Hi, sweetie. Hi.
Hello to you.
See the doggy sleeping?
No.
Oh. Oh, he looks so comfy.
You want to pet Kramer? Oh, maybe
You
another
can try to pet him. Use your hand like this.
We'll go visit Kramer one of these days. Okay? You want to see him again? I know. Well, we're going to see Kramer one day again. We'll see Pam one day again.
Aw.
Have a beautiful day, everybody.
You too, lady.
You
Bye.
Bye.